in our local kind of community here. We have our first one this evening. Where is he? Mr. Clive. Ooh, ooh. Okay, big cheer from the crowd there. What else? Oh yeah, I mentioned that. So yeah, early August is when we're hoping to do another one, which would actually be 2 months in a row. Wouldn't that be cool? Yeah. But seriously, we do need the help of the community to make that happen. So please get in touch, come join in, participate. Otherwise, it's just me ranting like this at everyone every time. What else? Oh yeah, this was more a note for myself than anything else. Apparently we have some VIPs in here and they want to give the place a good steam cleaning after we clear all these developers out. So I think 7:30 we're going to have to get everyone out. Which I guess is just as well, because the fridge isn't as full of beer today as it normally is. What else? Oh yeah.
We usually go across the road afterwards.
We usually go across the road afterwards, is what Dan says. I believe he's referring to a pub called The Barge.
Or just around the canal, you know.
Or around the canal. Anyway, we won't focus on that. Some very puzzled looking people. It's a template and I just stick people's names on it. That's not what they look like at all. It's just my own little joke. So we have Sebastian and Omar. These are not quite in the correct order. And then Patrick and Clive. So I think one more. Oh yeah, for anyone here who's not aware of this one, there's an Irish Tech Community Slack team group, whatever the correct noun is there. And there is an Android dev channel in it where I'm often hanging out and talking nonsense to people. So if you want to get more into the community and hear more about what's going on all the time, do join us there. You don't need an invite or anything. It's just like irishtechcommunityslack.com.
Well, I think go to irishtechcommunity.com.ie, you can get a link to Slack.
Okay, so some Googling skills may be required, I think is what we're saying. And that's it for me. So I guess we'll get straight on with our first speaker, the lovely Sebastian.
Let's get this started.
Don't read the presenter notes.
Full of secret information. Almost set up in seconds. Sweet. Hello. I'm going to talk today about. Can you people hear me in the back? The model talking to the presenter itself, just to update stuff like push notifications. All those things have to go back. And let's look at that example that I will use a bit often. It's the Google Hangouts app. So if you want to apply this pattern here and want to move on, apply this pattern, you have a lot to consider here before you start building. You have here a message list with multiple conversations that should be in sync with your message list itself. So as soon as somebody writes, it has to appear here. As soon as somebody pushes it from the back end, it should appear here. So there's a lot of moving parts you have to take care of. Then, of course, user interactions. People can add stuff like images, stickers, whatever. And then you have the list itself, as I said, sourced by a lot of different sources, like a REST API, MQTT, push, WebSockets, you name it, or even the local disk. So you have to all orchestrate them into one thing. And MVP, as I know it and as I used it, can get, we have clear abstractions at some level, reactive app, with multiple conversations that should, how to implement it in the Java on Android especially, and a little demo in the end. Let's see if we can't barely see the slides here. Let's start with MVP. We all know it, we all love it. It's 100 years old, but it suits as well, I think. We have a presenter, we have a view, we have a model, and if somebody's interacting with it, if a user is interacting, a viewer is talking to the presenter notifies the model, state changes happens here, and then everything comes back into the view and gets updated. In certain cases, if you want to have a little bit more reactive app, you probably need also then to have the model talking to the presenter itself, just to update stuff like push notifications, all those things have to go back. And let's look at that example that I will use a bit often. It's the Google Hangouts app. So if you want to apply this pattern here and want to move on, apply this pattern, you have a lot to consider here before you start building. You have here a message list with multiple conversations that should be in sync with your message list itself. So as soon as somebody writes, it has to appear here. As soon as somebody pushes it from the backend, it should appear here. So there's a lot of moving parts you have to take care of. Then, of course, user interactions. People can add stuff like images, stickers, whatever. And then you have the list itself, as I said, sourced by a lot of this, often just rerouting the view to the model and other way.
There's an Android dev channel in it where...
Hello. I'm going to talk today about... can you people hear me in the back? Yeah.
The mic is on, you just need to be louder.
Okay. Test. Can...
Can use the other one if you want.
I'll try. Is this better?
Yeah.
Perfect. So, yeah. So, I'm Sebastian, if you haven't heard me. That's not me. I'm talking about Redux today and unidirectional data flows. So I'll just give you a quick overview of what I'm talking about. I did an introduction that we're done. I'm doing a small recap about the existing patterns, especially MVP, and talking why it didn't suit myself. Then I'll go forward and introduce the pattern itself, the concept itself, and then digging a bit deeper into Redux, and how to implement it in the Java on Android especially, and a little demo in the end. Let's see if we can't barely see the slides here. Let's start with MVP. We all know it, we all love it. It's 100 years old, but it suits us well, I think. We have a presenter, we have a view, we have a model, and if somebody's interacting with it, if a user is interacting, a view is talking to the presenter notifies the model, state changes happens here, and then everything comes back into the view and gets updated. In certain cases, if you want to have a little bit more reactive app, you probably need also then to have the model talking to the presenter itself, just to update stuff like push notifications, all those things have to go back. And let's look at that example that I will use a bit often. it's the Google Hangouts app. So if you want to like apply this pattern here and want to apply this pattern, like you have a lot to consider here before you start building. Like you have here a message list with multiple conversations that should be in sync with like your message list itself. So as soon as somebody writes, you have state in multiple places in MVP. You have a lot of state in the model. That's basically your list of messages, for example. It's all living in the model, but also your view has a certain kind of state. Like, is the progress bar visible? Is it not? All those things might get lost if you have to deal with configuration changes on Android, as we all have them. So overall, I wasn't really happy with it, and I started looking into what's out there. Like, as I said, MVP is like from the early 90s, all this MVM star patterns, so they are quite around for a while. So what's there? And if you search a bit, you'll find unidirectional data flow patterns. They're mostly from the web, so like introduced by JavaScript frameworks. And the popular one of things are right now, and Flux and Redux, both brought up by Facebook, sorry. And I say both from the web itself. Flux was first. Redux is a thing and came out from Flux itself. So like there's like a bit of a history here. So let's look into them and let's look into the unidirectional data pattern itself. They usually look like something like this, as you can see in the first view. And as the name suggests, data is flowing in one direction. And that's the key part. Like that's the pattern you have to stick to. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense. They consist of like multiple parts. Like first of all is the view. The view is, if you're going to implement it, would be still the Android view, like the bottom of the container that's displaying it. What they're doing is like the views are subscribing to the store, and they're reacting to updates from the store. So just like the store is notifying the view, and they're just reacting. That's what they're doing. They don't have any state. They're stateless. So if there's an update from the store, the view reacts. That's it. No more magic in there. So you have all the magic, our favorite Android library SDK code, modular in one component. You can't test it properly, so that's good. The next component is the store. That's a bit more interesting. Depending on the pattern you're using, you can have multiple stores depending on how many components are, or they're like patterns that only have one store. Depends what you go. Usually the store contains the app state. So there is the information